And joining us today on the Book Talk segment, great to welcome a woman who's written a book I think is going to help a lot of people. It's called Cure Your Child with Food, The Hidden Connection Between Nutrition and Childhood Ailments. We're joined today by Kelly Dorfman by telephone. And Kelly, good to talk to you. How are you today?
I'm good, Doug. And yourself?
I'm doing well. I wanted to thank you, first of all, as someone who grew up with a lot of allergies. Still have a little bit of them, but I was very interested in reading your book. I had a chance to get through it, and I was really kind of surprised how many conditions children are going through nowadays, probably more than when I was a kid, dealing with these different illnesses that can be helped or some cases cured by food, but it seems like a lot more than I remember.
Well, that's the whole point of the book. I think it's a lot more than most people realize. Most people know that if you have a peanut allergy, you should avoid peanuts, and that's a nutritional problem, but they don't think if my child has anxiety, could there be a nutritional link, or if my child has ear infections, could there be a nutritional link? And sometimes there is one.
It really is kind of fascinating the way you kind of have different case studies in the book. Some I didn't realize that were even related to food. You know, you're talking about hyperactivity and ADHD, those kind of conditions that you hear more about nowadays that kids are going through. I think doctors tend to prescribe medicine for that, where in many cases food can, if not totally get rid of it, I guess alleviate the symptoms, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not the cure for everything, but when you think about it, you're basically a band of chemicals, and you're not the government, so you can't run on a deficit. So if you don't got it, you don't make it, and if you don't have enough zinc, you don't grow, and if you don't have the right kind of fats, your brain doesn't work properly, and you know, you can keep stretching it further and further. We tend to think of nutrition very narrowly, like if you eat too much, you get fat. But we don't think that if you eat the wrong kind of food, you get an ear infection or have a stomach ache or have reflux.
Now, I know when I grew up, I found out through some trial and error that I was allergic to milk, and then they tried the soy milk, which they found out I was allergic to that as well, and I guess a lot of people go through that, right? Milk allergies as children, and that can lead to, like you said, ear problems and different types of digestive problems, right?
And that's a really good example, Doug, because, you know, milk and soy have similar protein. The protein in them has similar structures, and so half the people who have milk allergies also have soy reactions, just like you did. So they get off of dairy and think, okay, we'll just use soy milk. They put the soy milk in it, and they have equally bad reactions. So they either think, oh, I guess I don't have any reaction to dairy, or else they realize, oh my gosh, I'm reacting to both of them, which is what happened to you.
It was actually worse with the soy.
Well, yeah, I mean, soy is pretty rough stuff, and you know, it's probably better for you not to have it because it has a mild estrogenic property to it, and perhaps as a young boy, you wouldn't have wanted that.
No, I don't think that would have worked out too well. Well, why is it nowadays? I mean, I know you go through it in the book about the diet that people in general have now, but it seems like it's exponentially higher than, you know, I'm not that far removed from being a child, but, you know, a few years, but it seems like it's a lot worse today. Is it just the diet in general that people are on early in their lives?
We do have a more difficult, poorer diet than in generations past. I mean, they've done a lot of research on that, and we're pretty poor eaters. Less than 20% of kids eat the recommended fruits and vegetables they're supposed to. That means 4 out of 5 kids aren't eating just the fruits and vegetables they're supposed to. And, you know, there's a lot more choices, a lot of snack foods. There's a new meal now they call snack because people are eating all these crackers and chips and cookies instead of meals, and they're eating on the run. So we had a lot of cultural changes that way. And then we've also messed around with the food. We've used a lot of our good science to make crops more resistant to bugs and pests. Some of those techniques have also made the food more reactive. So we've gotten a little bit of bad along with the good, and unfortunately that bad is getting increasingly problematic as more and more people react, for example, to gluten, or more and more people are reacting to peanuts, whereas before that was pretty rare.
Yeah, you have a lot in the book about gluten. We've been hearing about that for years now, that additive to food, and I don't remember that as a kid either, hearing about the term gluten. I know there's wheat allergies, you heard about that, but why is gluten the last 10 or 15 years, why has that been such a big problem?
Well, the Mayo Clinic did a research project on this, and they looked at old blood samples from 50 years ago and found that people actually were less reactive to gluten in the past, and they asked themselves the same question, and they concluded that it was because we really have changed the gluten that's in the food by messing around with the genes in the wheat plants. The wheat plants of today are very different. They've been genetically altered to be more resistant to drought and to have other properties against pests, which is good, of course, but as a result of that, the protein is different, and apparently it's more concentrated and it's more reactive, so a lot more people are having trouble with it.
Yeah. You see a lot in the stores now, food stores. You can get a lot of gluten-free products, but much more expensive and doesn't always taste as good. So it's a tough sell, isn't it?
They're not very healthy for you either. They're made of potato starch or tapioca starch. That's not exactly health food either. So, you just have to make sure that if you're going to go gluten-free, that you're not substituting paste, but you're using real foods like rice and potatoes and vegetables and fruits and the like.
You had some interesting cases in the book, particularly about children who were suffering from bipolar disorder, and I think a couple of parents brought them to you, and you were able to help them with dietary changes. That's good news, I think. I mean, a lot of people probably have their kids on Ritalin and those types of drugs where they don't really need to be, right?
Well, of course, some people do need medication, but you sure don't want to be on those medicines unless you absolutely have to. And the case I used in the book, and I've seen a large number of these cases, unfortunately, because bipolar disorder is being diagnosed a lot in children now. And this is a child who had been on a lot of medication and was pretty disassociated and pretty moody, and it turned out in that case it was gluten. We took her off of gluten, and not only did she get better, but her father, who had an anger management problem and was being medicated for that, also got better doing the diet with her.
It all kind of comes down, I guess, Kelly, to what our grandparents and parents told us originally: eat your fruits and vegetables, right? Isn't that basically it?
Yeah, I mean, I think if I could write a one-sentence book instead of the 360-page book I wrote, eat your vegetables, and that probably would take care of a good number of problems. But I think there are a lot of subtleties, and parents feel empowered, and not just parents for their kids, but sometimes for themselves. A lot of people. Don't forget the apples don't fall far from the tree, so if the kids are doing better, it's very likely that one of the parents is suffering from a similar malady.
Yeah, I agree. I think, no reason you can't have some junk food once in a while, but don't make it a whole diet of it. Obviously, that's what's causing these problems, but eat a balanced diet as best you can, right?
It's so hard because you say that, but it's just so addictive. These foods are just pernicious. They slip in, and people think that they're not eating them very often, but what it turns out is that what they mean to eat and what they're actually eating can be two very different things.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had more time, Kelly. It's a fascinating book, and we encourage the folks out there to pick it up. It's called Cure Your Child with Food. We've been talking with Kelly Dorfman today. A lot of great stories and different types of food remedies in the book. Do you have a website, Kelly? People can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I go to cureyourchildwithfood.com.
That's
or
easy
you can
enough.
follow me on Twitter at Nutrition Sleuth. But cureyourchildwithfood.com will give you links to buy the book and some extra material and some fun stuff.
Great. It's a paperback book, so it's a good kind of reference book to have around the house. And Kelly Dorfman, good to talk to you. Hopefully we can do it again down the road. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure, Doug.